Hey, what's up guys, it's Thunderstruck115. I hope you're having a good day today. Because today I have got an Xbox fanboy turned PlayStation fanboy turned Xbox fanboy here that is simping for Redfall. I am of course talking about the one and only CrapGamer. Now normally I don't really cover the console wars, but considering how much of a dumpster fire that Redfall was, and it being a game that I was severely let down by, I feel like I'm willing to make an exception here. So basically in this video, he tries to damage control for Redfall by bringing up other games from other publishers that are broken, as a pathetic attempt at deflection. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into this shit.
You know what's funny? I'm a little bit disappointed with some of the reactions around Redfall. Now, as far as I could tell, there's this subsect of gamers that just salivate at the idea of an Xbox game not scoring well.
Yeah, and the word you're looking for is called fanboys. And the whole thing with fanboys is that you really shouldn't take them seriously. Just like how I'm not taking you seriously, crap.
Now, an interesting thing about that whole situation is they've had the long wait. About 3 years? Microsoft's first party hadn't really missed in, I would say, 3 years' time. Believe it or not, I would say that the lowest one that they had was recently for the Minecraft Legends, which I'd say that was about an average score. I think anything in the 70s.
My guy, did you forget about Scorn and Halo Infinite? Those games were absolutely blasted when they released.
Is an average score. 80s is really, really good. 90s, obviously, great. So when we look at this and we go, what's the deal with this? Why is there so many people out there just waiting for Microsoft to fail? And here's the even more interesting part. I've got so much to say about this that it's all coming out at one time. So when it comes to Redfall, right, you have early reviews that some of them leaked out, some of them weren't great. Some people are just jumping on it. Of course, the typical no-lifers, they jump on it and try to throw it back in your face. Oh, look, it's another bad game. The same exact people that were hyping up for Spoken for PlayStation 5, right? These are the same people that were doing that and saying that review scores don't matter.
Examples? Because the only people that were hyping up for Spoken are gaming journalists and a couple PlayStation fanboys on Twitter, neither of which should be taken seriously. Pretty much everybody else either didn't care about Forspoken or were fucking trashing on it.
Now all of a sudden the review scores matter, and this is all Microsoft's fault. They don't know how to handle, their businesses. They can't run studios. They can't do this. They can't do that. Interesting fact, though. Hi-Fi Rush released earlier in the year, and people said Microsoft gets none of that credit because that game was already in development before Microsoft bought them. So I'm confused. They're both Bethesda games, and same with Starfield. I have a feeling that game's going to score extremely well, and people are going to say Microsoft had nothing to do with it because it was in development before they bought them. But apparently, any Redfall issues are 100% Microsoft's fault. Nobody else's fault but Microsoft, and they can't manage a studio to save their life. This is basically the catch-22 that Microsoft finds themselves in.
Again, do you have any examples of this shit? Because when Hi-Fi Rush released, I remember pretty much everybody except the PlayStation fanboys were praising Xbox because they actually released a really good game for once. Like, when Xbox releases a good game, they should be praised for it, and when they release a shitty game, they should be criticized for it. Plain and simple.
And I think it's utterly ridiculous. Ridiculous. Now, my passion for this wavered here and there. It just wasn't fun for me to sit there and do videos when people are just being so ignorant. You know what I mean? But it's again, that thing that got me into doing this in the first place was everybody just hating on Xbox, and I didn't understand it.
Evidently, you understood it from 2020 to 2022, because during that period, you were a PlayStation fanboy shitting on Xbox.
Right? If video games are all about the games, then why wouldn't you want to go with an Xbox One? They literally pooed all over the PlayStation 4 for the first year and a plus, few years of the especially that first year, right? Maybe you loved Resogun and Knack, but geez, Microsoft was offering great stuff with Titanfall, with Sunset Overdrive, with Forza Horizon 2, with Dead Rising 3. These were solid games that they were putting out, and they were getting crapped on.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because when it comes to buying a video game console, there's way more that goes into it than just what games are exclusive to said console. Like, the Xbox One was literally $100 more expensive, despite the fact that it was less powerful than the PS4. You had to have the Kinect on at all times, which would spy on you in your own home. And then, of course, Microsoft tried pulling shit like not allowing you to share physical games, buy used games, or play offline for more than 24 hours without a constant online check-in. That's why people hated on the Xbox One. But yeah, if it was just about the exclusives, then yeah, the Xbox One would have been far more successful than the PS4 at launch. But guess what? Exclusives just aren't all that important to what console you'll buy because, newsflash, most of the people buying an Xbox or a PlayStation are primarily going to play third-party titles on that, as we see with sales charts year after year. The only real exception to this would be Nintendo, but that's usually because Nintendo makes their consoles all gimmicky and the games utilize said gimmicks in a way that can't really be replicated on other consoles.
Right? Last I checked, video games were about the games themselves. Microsoft having more first-party content this year than Sony, that's not an imaginary thing. It's a real thing. Microsoft has better lineup from the first party this year.
Yeah, they have more games lined up, but that doesn't really mean much if the games are dog shit. Like, if Xbox were to release 100 games this year, but all of them were shit like Redfall, and then Sony only releases like 5, but they're all like really high quality, then yeah, that's gonna go to Sony. Because personal tastes aside, Sony does have a better track record when it comes to the quality of their games. Now, I might not be the biggest fan of like the whole Sony story walking simulator style of game, but that's just a personal preference of mine. But I can tell that the quality is there, well, for the most part. Obviously, this doesn't refer to shit like The Crash of Us 1 on PC, or Forspoken on any platform. But if we were to take a sample of like 10 games that Sony has published, I guarantee like about 7 of them would be good. Whereas it's closer to like 3 or 4 for Xbox. And this is coming from somebody who primarily plays on a Series X and doesn't even own a PlayStation console.
No matter what anybody else says, that's a factual thing. Sony admitted one game. One big game from the first party within the fiscal year. That's all. It's going to be Spider-Man 2. When is that going to release? I don't really know. I don't think anybody knows. But at the same time, I'm sitting here looking at this and seeing all the people trying to hate on this and going, oh, well, it's janky and there's this and the poor performance. And then I look over and I see this new Jedi game, which ran like crap on PC, ran like crap on Xbox, ran like crap on PlayStation 5, yet sits at an 87 Metacritic score.
Well, there's your problem. You're looking at critic scores. Like, motherfucker, game critics have been a complete joke for at least 15 years, if not longer. But if you go to Metacritic and look at the user scores, you'll notice that Jedi Survivor is sitting at a meager 2.6. Which, by the way, is even lower than Redfall's 3.2. And in literally any online discussion regarding Jedi Survivor, literally the first thing everybody brings up is the performance issues.
And nobody brought up any performance issues. So, I'm not even 100% sure what this thing's going to end up scoring. A good guess would be probably somewhere in the 70s. But, with that being said, if they're going to knock them for performance issues, then why are none of these other games getting knocked for performance issues?
They literally fucking are. Forspoken got knocked for performance issues, The Crash of Us 1 on PC got knocked for performance issues, and Jedi Survivor got knocked for performance issues. But because this guy's an Xbox fanboy, he's going to be blind to that just so he can say that only Redfall is getting knocked for performance issues, when that is clearly not the case. Also, I feel like showing a clip from my recent Redfall rant because I think it's very applicable to what CrapGamer is doing here. I mean, on Series X, it manages to hold a consistent native 4K, which is more than I can say for games like Forspoken or Jedi Survivor. But when I have to pretty much scrape the bottom of the barrel to give this game any sort of W at all, that should go to show you just how fucking awful it is.
Are some of you familiar with Star Trek? Like, I'm not the biggest Star Trek fan, but I know what the Kobayashi Maru is. It's basically a training simulation that they put, the students through, and it's a lose-lose situation or a no-win situation, and they want to see how people react to it. Well, of course, in lore, Captain Kirk, before he was Captain Kirk, he rigged it so that he could win because he doesn't believe in no-win situations. But Microsoft is literally in no-win situations. What can they do? What are they able to do about this? Right? What can they do? If they release a game and it's good, they get told they had nothing to do with it. If they release a game and it's bad, they get crapped on and said they don't know how to run a studio and it's all their fault. So literally, I'm waiting for that one PlayStation fan to kind of just rap with me here. Like, what's the deal? What is going on with this? Right? And then I get it. Like, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what this game's going to score. I'm excited for the game. I think review scores do matter. I think they absolutely do. But I think people are going to play what they want to play. If they're excited for it, then they should play it.
My brother in Christ, you literally contradicted your previous statement. Like, he says that review scores matter, and then in the very next sentence he says that people are just going to play the games they're excited for and that they want to play. I'm just going to say this. Review scores, or at least critic scores, they really don't fucking matter. Keep in mind, these are the same critics that gave The Laugh at Us Part 2 a really high score on Metacritic despite the game being ass. Not to mention, they're the same people that suck at video games that have any sort of difficulty curve to them. So, you should play the games you like, and just not really give a fuck what other people have to say. But the problem with you, Crap, is that you seem to be unable to
keep that same energy. And the fact that Microsoft has, games coming out this year and Sony doesn't, I can see why a lot of their fans are sort of, I guess I want to say, up in arms over this stuff, because at the end of the day, it's just one of those things that kind of happens. And, Microsoft has really tried hard lately to make things right.
How exactly is pushing out Redfall in a completely broken and unfinished state making things right? If anything, it's just screwing over consumers. That's the opposite of making things right.
And so the fact that everybody still wants to constantly just take a big crap on them time and time again really just, I guess it kind of pisses me off, and it's just like, this is just video games, I get it, but why does it seem like the whole deck is stacked against Xbox? Like, what do people really want, right? Is every game that Xbox released got to be a 95 Game of the Year winner? While, meanwhile, everybody else can get away with dropping duds here and there, Microsoft can't. In 3 years, Microsoft has dropped critically acclaimed games, including 2021, where they won actually for having the absolute best, all-time average Metacritic score per release as a publisher.
This kind of disproves everything you're saying throughout this video about how everybody's biased against Xbox. Like, why would they get the highest Metacritic review scores on average in 2021 if they're biased against Xbox? And the answer is, they wouldn't. The reason why Microsoft's games in 2021 were received well is because Microsoft was actually putting out quality games. But then when Xbox puts out a shitty game like Redfall, no shit, everybody's gonna clown on them for it.
Best all time, right? They have not missed in 3 years, and yet people want to dump on them all the time. It's the same thing with, like, delayed games, right? Everybody goes, Microsoft sucks, they can't handle anything, they're delaying games. And I'm like, didn't just about every company delay a game at some point over the last couple years? In fact, all 3 of Sony's major new AAA games last year were delayed from the previous year. And they only have 1 game announced, and that's confirmed now, to come out over the next year from the first party. And I would wager almost anything that internally a lot of their developers are having to push back because of the pandemic. The same thing that happened to Microsoft, but nobody will admit this stuff.
Yeah, maybe back in like 2020 and 2021 people were doing that because of the pandemic. But the pandemic's been over for a while now, or at the very least we're able to handle it much better, and things have mostly gone back to normal. So like the reason why everybody was clowning on Xbox in 2022 for not releasing games is because they weren't releasing games, whereas plenty of other companies were.
Right? It's so crazy to me. Nobody's willing to give anything half a shot. I get it, man. Like, they just want to hate on Xbox. They really hate Xbox for whatever reason. Like, you would think Xbox, like, slapped their mamas or something. All they've really done is give us the best the best in gaming that we've ever gotten. And I don't understand why people have anything to be upset about. On the other hand, you have Sony literally raise prices on the console, raise prices on games.
I think you've been living under a rock for a while, CrapGamer, because Microsoft has also raised the price of their games. Now, granted, Sony did it first, but at this point, most AAA gaming companies have raised the prices of new games from $60 to $70, which personally I think is complete bullshit, considering that ever since then, the quality of games has just gotten significantly worse. But I guess that's neither here nor there.
They released VR for $600, no backwards compatibility, and they didn't even mention VR to their investors, meaning there's probably very little hope that that thing survives. You know, I would imagine whatever crop of games that are heavily in development will get pushed out, but I don't see their first party going heavily into VR with games anymore, right? Like, they haven't done a showcase in 2 years. The PS5's only been on the market 2.5 years, and for the last 2 years, they haven't done a first-party showcase. They haven't announced anything.
My guy, have you forgotten about games like Horizon Forbidden West, God of War Ragnarok, Stray, Returnal, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Demon's Souls Remake? Any of that ring a bell? Because I'm pretty sure those are first-party titles that have released for the PS5 ever since it launched.
Right? Like, I mean, what does this company got to do to get a little bit of deserved ire from the fans? Right? It's crazy to look at this and see how everybody's hating on Xbox and nobody's hating on PlayStation. Like, PlayStation is just exempt from any kind of criticism, exempt from any kind of anything. You know what I mean? If they get a bad score, it was biased. Well, take a look around, and the bias is clear. And the bias is in favor of PlayStation for whatever reason. And I gotta tell you, I'm kind of sick of it. I know some of you are too. Let me know how you feel. I'm CrapGamer. This is CrapGamerReviews. Are you frustrated with this stuff too? Because I am absolutely frustrated with it. And, you know, I can't wait till something changes. Something has to change sooner rather than later. Let me know what you think. I appreciate it. Rack 'em up. CrapGamer out.
And thus concludes the video. So I guess the key takeaway here is that CrapGamer is living under a rock where everybody hates on Xbox and only Xbox. Meanwhile, he's just oblivious to the fact that people hate on games like Forspoken, Jedi Survivor, and The Last of Us on PC for having similar performance issues to Redfall. But yeah, anyways, that's going to be about it for this video. If you enjoyed, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe for more, and tell me what you think about CrapGamer being, well, CrapGamer. Anyways, that's it. Peace!